I'm 74 years old now. That number sits different once you say it out loud. Not scary, not dramatic, just heavy, like a coat you didn't realize you'd been wearing all day. Before we dive in, if you're watching this, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this story reaches. At 74, you start replaying things whether you want to or not. Moments, conversations, the stuff you missed because you thought you had more time. And last Christmas, that's the one I can't stop replaying. Not because it was loud, not because it was angry, but because I didn't see it coming. And at my age, that scares me more than anything. My name doesn't matter much anymore. Folks used to call me Mr. Harlan back when I worked maintenance at the high school in East Texas. 32 years of busted lockers, leaky pipes, and Friday night football trash cleanup. These days, the mailman just says sir. And my son, well, my son mostly doesn't say much at all. I live just outside Tyler, Texas. One-story house, faded paint. Porch boards that complain louder than I do when the weather changes. Bought it back when Reagan was on television every night and my knees still trusted stairs. I've lived here long enough that every scratch on the wall has a story. Long enough to believe this place was permanent. Turns out, nothing really is. My son's name is Caleb. Only child, just the two of us after his mama passed. She was the glue, always was. When she died 15 years ago, something in our house went quiet in a way I didn't understand until much later. I raised Caleb the way I was raised. Hard work, straight talk, no coddling. If you wanted something, you owned it. If you broke it, you fixed it. That wasn't cruelty. That was survival where I came from. Caleb was sharp from the start. Smart kid. Curious. Always asking why when I just wanted him to do the thing. Teachers loved him. Said he had potential. Funny word, potential. Sounds like a compliment until you realize it also means expectations. There's one memory that sticks with me now. Didn't think much of it back then. Caleb was about 10. School talent show. He played piano. Good, too. Better than I expected. Afterward, I clapped hard, whistled loud. Real proud dad stuff. On the drive home, he stared out the window. Finally, he said, "Dad, next time can you not yell like that?" I laughed it off. Thought he was embarrassed in a kid way. But he added, real quiet, "People look when you do that." I remember nodding, saying, "All right, son." Didn't realize that was the first time I learned how easily pride can turn into something you're supposed to hide. I worked 2 jobs most of his life. Morning shift at the school, evenings fixing engines, fences, whatever paid cash. I missed ball games, missed school meetings, missed some birthdays. But I never missed rent, never missed groceries, never missed telling him he mattered. Or at least, I thought I didn't. Memory has a funny way of editing itself as you age. Some scenes fade. Others get sharper until they hurt. Caleb got out. College. Degree. Dallas. Big glass buildings and words like synergy and scalable. He married Melissa. Nice woman, polite smile. Always a little distant, like she was observing more than participating. She had a son from a previous marriage. Ethan. 16 now. Always had earbuds in. Like silence was something to protect himself from. After Dallas, calls got shorter. Visits turned into holidays only. Then, maybe next time. Then excuses that sounded reasonable if you didn't listen too closely. Still, Christmas was sacred to me. Didn't matter how tired I was or how bad my hands shook tying ribbons. I decorated that house every year. Same ornaments since '82. Same crooked angel leaning left on the tree. Same Frank Sinatra Christmas albums skipping on track 3. Christmas meant family, and family meant Caleb. Early December last year, my phone rang. Dad, Caleb said. Busy voice. Distracted, like he was walking somewhere important. We're coming down for Christmas. We. That word hit me harder than it should have. I felt 10 years younger just hearing it. I told him I'd cook. Turkey, stuffing, pecan pie. The whole spread. Like his mama used to like it. There was a pause. Just a beat too long. Actually, he said, we were thinking of keeping it kind of low-key this year. Low-key. That's a word folks my age understand real well. Means smaller, quieter, less you. I laughed anyway. Told him I didn't care about the fuss. Just wanted them there. After I hung up, I sat in my recliner for a long time staring at nothing. Hope does that. Makes you brave and stupid at the same time. After, I spent weeks getting ready. Cleaned the spare room even though my back screamed at me. Bought new towels because Melissa once said mine smelled old. Fixed the porch rail. Replaced the thermostat. Even bought that fancy coffee Caleb liked. Every night, I pictured Christmas morning. Coffee brewing. Caleb laughing the way he used to before life sanded him down. Maybe Ethan calling me grandpa by accident. At 74, you don't dream big anymore. You dream close. They arrived 2 days before Christmas. Nice SUV. Shiny. Temporary plates. Caleb barely looked at the house before unloading bags. Inside, Melissa smiled tight. Ethan went straight to the Wi-Fi like it was an emergency. Caleb hugged me. Quick. Careful. Like I might break. House looks the same, he said. Not good. Not home. Just the same. I swallowed that feeling. Served dinner. Tried to keep things light. Every time I told a story, Caleb redirected. Dad, remember we talked about not bringing that up? Politics, old neighbors, his mother. Each correction was small, polite, reasonable, but I felt myself shrinking anyway, like a volume knob getting turned down without my permission. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan wobble, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, fear, because I realized something I wasn't ready to admit. I wasn't hosting Christmas anymore. I was being tolerated, and Christmas Eve, that's when I learned exactly where I stood. But before I tell you what my son said to me under those blinking tree lights, before I tell you how a single sentence can rewire a lifetime of memories, let me say this clearly. I never believed my own child would make me feel like a guest in my own home. Not after everything. Not at 74. And not at Christmas. And once you hear what happened next, you'll understand why some doors, once closed, never sound the same again. Christmas Eve always used to be my favorite. Not the big day, that was chaos. But Christmas Eve had room to breathe. Quiet, anticipation. The house felt like it was holding its breath along with you. That year, it felt like it was bracing for impact. I woke up early, like I always do. Old habit. Sun wasn't up yet, but my body didn't care. Made coffee, stood at the sink, watching steam curl up like it was trying to escape. I listened for sounds from the hallway. Doors opening, footsteps, laughter. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the wall clock I'd owned since Caleb was born. I told myself not to read into it. That's what you start doing when you get older. You second-guess your instincts. You tell yourself you're being sensitive, that the world didn't suddenly turn cold overnight. But something was off. I could feel it in my chest, like a warning light that wouldn't quite turn on. Around mid-morning, Caleb finally came out. He looked tired. Not in a long driveway. More like the kind of tired that comes from deciding something ahead of time. "Morning, Dad," he said, already checking his phone. I asked if he wanted coffee. He waved it off. Said he'd grab something later. Melissa appeared next, fully dressed, hair done, purse on her shoulder. "We're heading out for a bit," she said. "Just some errands." Errands. On Christmas Eve. Ethan didn't even look at me as he followed them out, earbuds in, hoodie up. The door shut behind them, and the house went quiet again. That's when it hit me. I wasn't part of their plans. Not for the day. Not for Christmas Eve. I stood there longer than I should have, hand resting on the counter, feeling stupid for waiting for an invitation that wasn't coming. They were gone most of the day. I busied myself the way old men do when they don't want to think. Swept floors that were already clean. Checked the turkey twice. Rearranged ornaments that had been in the same place for years. Every time a car passed outside, I felt my heart jump. Every time it wasn't them, something in me deflated. When they finally came back, it was already getting dark. They'd eaten. I could tell by the way they said it, casually, like it didn't matter. "Oh, we grabbed something while we were out," Caleb said. "Hope that's okay." Of course it was okay. Everything was okay. It always is when you don't want to be a problem. I ate leftovers alone at the kitchen table, while they sat in the living room scrolling their phones. Frank Sinatra played softly from the CD player. It sounded lonelier than I remembered. That evening, I brought out a small box. Didn't say anything at first, just placed it on the coffee table. Inside were old photo albums, real ones, thick pages, plastic sleeves yellowed with time. "Thought we could look through these," I said. "Old tradition." Caleb hesitated. Melissa smiled politely. Ethan didn't look up. We flipped through a few pages. There was Caleb at 5, missing his front teeth. At 12, holding a fish almost as long as his arm. At 18, graduation cap crooked. Same way the angel leaned on the tree. I watched his face as he looked. Not nostalgic, guarded. When I lingered too long on one picture, he cleared his throat. "Dad," he said gently, "you don't need to explain every photo." I felt heat rise in my neck. Laughed it off. "Habit," I said, but my hands shook as I turned the page. Later, while Melissa took a call in the bedroom and Ethan disappeared into the guest room, Caleb stayed in the living room with me. Tree lights blinked. Red, green, blue. I thought, this is it. This is where things settle. Father and son, Christmas Eve. Instead, he sat forward, elbows on knees. "Dad, there's something we should talk about." Those words never lead anywhere good. I nodded, tried to keep my face neutral. He chose his words carefully, like he'd practiced them. "Melissa's been worried about you." That stung, mostly because she'd never said a thing to me directly. "Worried how?" I asked. "Well, about the house, about you being alone out here." I looked around. Same walls I'd raised a family in. Same chair I'd watched Caleb do homework in. "I'm doing all right," I said. He sighed. That kind of sigh you give a child who won't understand. "Dad, we just want what's best." There it was, the phrase that makes decisions sound kind instead of controlling. Underscore. He started listing things. The porch rail, the old thermostat, the way I forgot where I put my keys earlier that day. Small things, ordinary things. But the way he stacked them together made them feel like evidence. "Have you thought about other options?" he asked. I knew what he meant. "Like what?" I said, though my stomach already knew the answer. "Maybe assisted living. Or moving closer to us. Assisted living." The words hit me like cold water. "I'm not there yet," I said, firm, louder than I meant to. Caleb leaned back. "No one's saying you are, but Christmas Eve isn't the time to get defensive." Defensive. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't accused him of anything, but suddenly, I was the problem. Underscore. He kept talking, about safety, about responsibility, about how hard it is for him to worry. I realized then, this wasn't a conversation. It was a presentation. When I tried to interrupt, he held up a hand. "Dad, please, let me finish." That gesture, the raised palm, did something to me. I'd used that gesture on him when he was little. Now he was using it on me. That's when I felt it. Not sadness, not anger, humiliation. Finally, I said the one thing I thought might stop it. I just wanted Christmas together. The room went quiet. Caleb looked at me, really looked, and for a second I thought he might soften. Instead, he said something that still echoes in my head. "This isn't about Christmas. It's about reality." Reality, like Christmas was childish, like I was clinging to something outdated. I nodded slowly. If I didn't, I might have said something I couldn't take back. Later that night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling fan again. But this time, I understood something clearly. This visit wasn't about family. It was about assessment. And Christmas Day, that was going to be the decision. Because the way Caleb looked at me before turning off the lights, it wasn't concern. It was evaluation. And once your own child starts measuring your worth, there's no pretending anymore. If you're still with me, stay. Because next is where the words get said out loud. The kind you don't forget, the kind you can't unhear, and the kind that breaks something you didn't know could break.
Christmas morning didn't feel like Christmas.
No rushing around, no coffee cups clinking, no smell of bacon or cinnamon,
Just quiet, thick and unmoving, like the house itself was holding its breath.
I woke before the sun again. Same chair, same coffee, same view out the window where frost clung to the grass like it was afraid to let go. For the first time in my life, I didn't turn on the Christmas music. Silence felt more honest. I sat there thinking about something Caleb had said the night before. This isn't about Christmas, it's about reality. Reality has a funny way of showing up when you didn't invite it. When they came out late, Melissa first, already dressed, makeup done, phone in hand,
Caleb followed, buttoning his shirt like we were headed somewhere formal.
Ethan trailed behind them, earbuds half out this time. He glanced at me, just for a second. There was no judgment in his eyes, just confusion. That's the moment I realized. This wasn't about generations clashing. This wasn't about kids being ungrateful. It was about choices made by adults. Ethan went back to his phone, and after that, he disappeared from the day completely. As far as I'm concerned, he wasn't part of what happened next. Breakfast was quick. Toast, coffee. No one lingered. Caleb checked the time. "We should open gifts," he said. Not excited, efficient. It did. I handed them theirs first. Nothing fancy, sweaters, a book Caleb once mentioned liking, a gift card for Ethan. They smiled, thanked me. Then Caleb handed me a single envelope. Inside was a card. No box, no wrapping paper, just a card. Inside, he'd written something neat and careful. "Love you, Dad. We need to talk today." That sentence sat heavier than any gift ever could. We sat in the living room again. Same tree lights, same crooked angel, but something had shifted. Melissa didn't sit this time. She hovered, leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Caleb took the chair across from me. Same posture as the night before. This time, there was no small talk. "Dad," he said, "we're going to have a hard conversation now." I nodded. I'd lived long enough to know when pretending was pointless. He started with concern again. Health, safety, the house. Then he moved to logistics. Doctors, paperwork, finances. Words stacked neatly, one on top of the other, until they formed a wall I couldn't see over. I tried to keep up, tried to respond calmly, but every time I said, "I'm fine," he countered with, "That's what worries us." There was no right answer anymore. Then he said it, the sentence that split the room in two. We don't think it's safe for you to live alone anymore. Not, I don't think. We. I looked past him, just for a moment, at the tree, at the ornaments that had survived decades of moves, storms, and hands that no longer existed. Since when? I asked. Caleb didn't hesitate. Since Mom died. That hurt more than I expected. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. 15 years. 15 years of me thinking I was holding things together, and him thinking I was falling apart. I stood up slowly. My knees complained, my back pulled, but I stood. This is my home, I said. Not loud, not angry, just true. Caleb rubbed his face. And that's the problem. You're attached to it. Attached. Like the house was a bad habit. Melissa finally spoke. We just still want to wait until something happens. I turned to her. Something like what? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Caleb, and her breath, was not angry. We've already looked at places, he said. That's when I understood. This conversation wasn't for discussion. It was for notification. You looked. Where? I asked. Near Dallas. Near them. Assisted living. Independent units. Structured. Clean. Temporary, he said. Just until I adjust. I laughed then. Not because it was funny. Because something in me snapped clean in half. You decided all this without me, I said. Caleb's voice hardened. Because every time we try to talk to you, you shut down. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. You stopped listening. That landed harder than anything else I'd said. For a second, the room felt unsteady. Then Caleb straightened. This is exactly what I mean, he said. You're being emotional. Emotional. At 74, in my own house, on Christmas Day. I looked at him then, really looked, at the man my son had become. And for the first time in my life, I felt small in front of him. I'm not going, I said. Caleb exhaled through his nose. We were hoping you'd say that. That sentence chilled me. Hoping? I asked. He leaned forward. Because then we can take the next step. There it was. The line you don't cross without consequences. What next step? I asked, though I already knew. He didn't answer right away. Melissa looked at the floor. Finally, Caleb said it. Power of attorney. The room went silent. Even the clock seemed to stop. You're what? I whispered. We want to help manage things, he said. Just in case. Just in case. Those words stripped me of more dignity than anger ever could. I felt my hands shaking. Not from fear, from disbelief. You think I can't manage my own life? I said. Caleb's voice softened. Too late. We think you shouldn't have to. I wanted to scream. Instead I nodded, slowly, carefully. Because if I didn't, I was afraid I might fall apart completely. That's when I said something I didn't plan to say. Something that came from a place older than logic. Your mother trusted me, I said. Caleb froze. She trusted me to take care of this family, I continued. And I did. He looked away. That's not fair, he said. No, I replied. It's just uncomfortable. The rest of Christmas Day passed like a fog. No music, no laughter, no dinner. They packed that afternoon. Caleb hugged me before leaving. Longer this time. Like someone hugging out of obligation. We'll talk soon, he said. I nodded. The car pulled away. And just like that, Christmas was over. That night, I sat alone in the living room. Tree lights still blinking. Angels still crooked. And I understood something that took me 74 years to learn. You can survive loss. You can survive grief. You can even survive loneliness. But being replaced while you're still alive, That's a different kind of pain. And next I'll tell you what I did next. Because I didn't do what they expected. Not even close.
A day after Christmas is worse than Christmas night. Nobody talks about that. Christmas night still has noise in it. Wrapping paper, car doors, goodbyes. Even grief has movement. But the day after? That's when the quiet settles in and decides to stay. I woke up late. Sun already high. House colder than usual because nobody had adjusted the thermostat after they left. For a moment, just one, I forgot. Then I remembered everything at once. The conversation, the words, the way Caleb looked at me like a problem to be solved. My chest tightened, sharp enough that I had to sit on the edge of the bed until it passed. At 74, you don't ignore pain. You catalog it. Decide whether it's new or just familiar. This one was new. What was in the house? The house felt different, not empty, inspected, like every corner had been evaluated while I slept. I walked into the living room and noticed small things I hadn't the night before. A legal pad on the side table that wasn't mine. A pen I didn't own. The photo albums moved, not put back where I'd left them. I stood there longer than I should have. Then I saw it. An envelope, not addressed, just placed neatly on the coffee table. My name written in Caleb's handwriting. Inside were copies, printed emails, brochures, a checklist, next steps, doctor appointments highlighted, facilities circled, a note at the bottom in pen. Dad, we'll talk about this soon. Try not to stress. We love you. I sat down slowly, not because I was tired, because my legs didn't trust the floor anymore. This wasn't concern. This was momentum. And momentum doesn't ask permission. I didn't call anyone that day. Didn't eat much. Just sat there listening to the clock, realizing something that hit harder than any argument. They weren't waiting for my agreement. They were waiting for my compliance. Do. 2 days later, Caleb called. His tone was different now, calmer, confident. We made you a doctor's appointment, he said. Just a baseline cognitive evaluation, routine. I didn't agree to that, I replied. A pause. Then Dad, refusing makes it look worse. That's when fear finally showed its face. Not fear of aging. Fear of being declared something I wasn't. You're building a case, I said quietly. Silence. That was answer enough. I hung up and sat there, shaking. This wasn't about love anymore. This was about control slipping through my fingers one polite sentence at a time. And here's the part people don't tell you about growing old. You don't lose power all at once. You lose it in conversations you didn't know were negotiations. That night, I pulled out the photo albums again, not for nostalgia, for evidence. Pictures of me fixing the roof last spring. Receipts, notes I'd written to myself and followed through on. It felt ridiculous, like I was preparing a defense against my own child. But I knew something now. If I waited, I would lose. The call that broke everything came a week later. Caleb didn't even try to soften it. We're moving forward, he said. Whether you're ready or not. With what? I asked. Power of attorney paperwork. Temporary. Just until things stabilize. Stabilize, I repeated. Yes. I closed my eyes, and something inside me finally went quiet. I didn't argue, didn't shout, didn't plead. I said one sentence. No. Caleb sighed, the same sigh he used when he was a teenager and thought I was being unreasonable. Dad, if you make this difficult, I interrupted him. If you do this, I said, you won't get me back afterward. He didn't respond. Because people who believe they're right don't think consequences apply to them. That night, I made my decision. Not quickly, not bravely, with shaking hands and a throat so tight it hurt to swallow. I didn't sleep. I waited for morning. The next week, I walked into my lawyer's office alone, not escorted, not confused, just old and very sure.
I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question. What do you want? I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, I want my life to stop being a discussion.
What I did next surprised everyone,
including me.
I didn't fight Caleb. I didn't confront him again. I stepped sideways, legally, quietly, permanently. I rewrote everything, not to punish, to protect. Medical directives, financial control,
Living arrangements.
all mine, signed, witnessed, locked. By the time Caleb realized what I'd done, it was already done. He showed up unannounced a month later, angry, confused. You cut us out, he said. I shook my head. No, I replied. I cut out uncertainty. You don't trust me, he asked. I met his eyes. I trust you to do what you think is best, I said. I don't trust that you'll ask me first. That landed hard. We stood there a long time. Finally, he said something I hadn't expected. I was scared. I nodded. So was I. That was the closest we came to understanding. We didn't reconcile neatly. Life doesn't work like that. But the pressure stopped. The paperwork stopped. The quiet takeover ended. And that Christmas, the one that nearly erased me, became the line my life reorganized itself around. Lastly, this year I didn't decorate much, just the angel, just one light. I sat in my chair, coffee in hand, and listened to the silence. Not the empty kind, the earned kind. Because I learned something late, but not too late. You don't have to raise your voice to keep your dignity. Sometimes, the strongest move an old man can make is deciding for himself and letting the rest fall where it may.
If you're a man listening to this, and you've worked your whole life, raised your kids, paid your bills, kept your word, hear me. Getting older doesn't mean turning your life into a committee decision. Love doesn't require control. Concern doesn't cancel consent. And if someone ever starts planning your future without you, that's not care. That's a warning. So I'll leave you with this. What line would you draw before someone else draws it for you? Thank you for listening my story. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Have a good day.